AITA for telling my husband that his behavior is completely inappropriate. My husband's mother has never liked me and she was beachy from day one. Honestly, she never did anything egregious, but I don't tolerate bullying and he had never been close to her, so he went no contact. We still had a relationship with Phil and one Sil, though Mill's other daughter chose to not have a relationship with us. I could tell for a while that it was bothering Phil. He was very withdrawn at our wedding, and when I tried to comfort him he snapped at me that I have no idea how much it hurts to be there without his wife. Mill almost died over the summer due to a freak accident on a friend's boat. She was in a coma for a couple of days and has had to do physical therapy. Phil called us when she got home and said he can't see us anymore, because when he was looking at her in the coma he couldn't live with the fact he hangs out with people who hate her, and he can't play both sides anymore. My husband got very upset and asked him to reconsider, but Phil said from now on they are a packaged deal and if we can't respect her, he can't see us. My husband has been devastated and I've been trying to help him work through it, but he has gone to their house multiple times to talk to his dad. Phil will not see him unless he apologizes to his mom, though Mill has said that she doesn't want to see him and doesn't want an apology. The last time DH went over there, the so we are estranged with called the cops. I sat down with him recently and we had a serious conversation about how it isn't okay. I said that he needs to respect his dad's boundaries. He can't trespass and he can't force a relationship. I told him point blank that his actions were completely inappropriate. He is now mad at me for not having empathy and said that was a robotic response and he can't lose his dad. Edit: for some of the stuff she did, she would not eat my cooking and clung to Phil's arm whining that she was hungry. She was constantly making jokes about my outfits and my husband must really love me to put up with the frumpiness. When Phil bought her things she would literally be like, I got something and you did not. She made jokes about spending all of Phil's money because she did not want us to get any when they died, including sending my husband a picture of a hotel room full of shopping bags and saying your inheritance. She tried to hijack her daughter's wedding and make it a party for herself. She whined and talked in baby talk constantly because Phil thought it was cute. She kept giving me marital advice when she had been asked to stop, and then said I was doing marriage wrong because my husband does not baby me. She sprayed me with a hose while she was watering her dog and then just laughed and would not apologize and said I should get a sense of humor. And does not he understand the concept of no? His parents are telling him no. He needs to respect it and work through his feelings on his own, without repeatedly bothering two traumatized people. Nah, your response is logical and his is emotional. You're right, but he's going through a lot. Both the Mill and Phil sound like Oz though. They repinning this all on you too, rather than accepting that the Mill is just at fault based on what's provided for the schism. Can you give some more specific examples of how she treated you? How did you respond? And your husband can expect to meet the cops the next time he goes over there. Phil may try to get a restraining order on him. And I see why your husband reacted in such a way. He is hurt and can see that his behavior is going to be more damaging in the long run, but his sister called the police and he needs to accept that his behavior is not okay or wanted. I know it's horrible for him, but his dad has as much right to go no contact with you as the two of you did with his mother. Just because he doesn't like it doesn't mean he can completely disregard it. It seems they respected your wishes and now you have to respect theirs. I hope he can see that sooner rather than later. I would be with you except for that she was beachy to me and honestly never did anything egregious. Almost every Mill is beachy and we all put up with that. There are entire threads about Mill from heck with sound reasons to go NC over bitchy behavior even with your DH blessing sets why all up for issues later. We were in a NC situation over some actual egregious behavior from both Les and it ate my husband up emotionally. They are his parents and I realized if it was perceived that I caused the rift even though it was joined he would resent me. While NC was healthier for me, it was not for him and therefore not healthy for us. Over time this may lead to resentment, especially if something happens to his dad and he has not spent time with him. You may become the monster in all of this because it is easier to blame and lash out at you than directing his guilt and anger evenly. Perhaps seeking a professional marriage counselor with some individual sessions will help you both to navigate this and come through stronger with a way for him to reconnect in some sort of way. There are no AS here, yet, but not comprehending the grief your husband is carrying and having empathy would put that title on you. I don't think most mills are beachy, but I also don't think a mild personality disconnect is enough to go NC. I think a lot is left out for sure. The majority of my friends, co-workers and acquaintances have expressed this sentiment. All women. I know one relative that has a superstar mill, but that is only because she is very submissive to my relative. It is all on my relative's terms. I think that the alpha-beta personalities as well as cultural differences come into play with regard to level of beachiness. Then their in-laws are just sucky people. My sisters-in-laws are amazing people, as is the rest of their family. I think for too long people just think in-laws are supposed to be this way when in fact everyone can get along. Some people just choose to be assholes and that is a them problem. This is an awful situation, and it is not your fault or his fault. You are absolutely correct. He is dealing with some serious trauma, but forcing himself on his dad would not help. Has he tried therapy? Is there a surplus of families out there with an infantile, clingy mill living her life with a doting Phil, with a daughter-in-law specifically is at odds with the mill? Is this a bizarrely common dynamic that I have just never encountered, or is this another iteration of that troll who likes spinning mill dramas? Troll LOL. Boating accident put Mill in a coma. Then Phil had a revelation after seeing his poor wife in that state that he's cutting off his child. They didn't even try to make it believable. Come on people. Then don't even get me started with the edit laughing my butt off. You and your husband mocked his mother enough that his father decided it was healthier to cut off his own son. That's telling. Your Mill may be a bully, and it sounds like she is, but by your own admission the two of you have laughed at her expense and made fun of her for that behavior alone. As for the specific behavior you're asking about, your husband made his bed, and now has to sleep in it. He is toxic enough to his family that they called the police after going NC. You're right to tell him he needs to respect their boundaries, but you also seem to be missing an incredibly important piece of this. He just lost his only remaining parent. He'd already gone NC with his mom and sister, and now suddenly he's lost his entire family. Consequences of why all his actions are biting you in the butt. But he deserves some empathy and kindness right now, because he clearly has never learned how to respect others. Therapy should be your next step, both individual and couples. You both need to learn to regulate your emotions and your responses. Basically, by your own admission the two of you have laughed at her expense and made fun of her. Where does it say that? Your op probably should have included all the information you provided in the edit. I get that there is a character limit for the op, but without the edit it does just seem like why all were being petty for choosing to go NC. And I could understand your Phil's feelings and now how your husband is feeling. With the information from your edit though, even without previous issues your husband had with his mother, I would have definitely reached a limit and gone NC as well. It's not even about the spending or the weird competition she wanted to have with you when Phil bought her something. It's the refusal to even try your cooking while whining that she's being starved, the insults to your style and dress, and the hose incident that does it for me. I think your husband may feel like her almost dying and your Phil too erases her behavior, but it really doesn't. She doesn't need or deserve an apology. Why all do? If she wants to continue to act like the injured party, that's on her. Your husband can't keep trying to force the issue though. He needs to respect their wishes, and he can't blame you either. He made his own choice, and she actually does not want an apology and does not feel hurt by any of this. She just says she is having fun and living her life, and she does not care if we like it or want to see her. Phil is the only one who was hurt over the NC to begin with. Info: is there any way that you all can try working things out with his mother? A lot of time has passed and she has had a near-death experience. Maybe you are all in a place where you can let go of the past and move forward, being at the very least civil to each other. Then your husband would not feel like he is losing his dad, and the dad would not feel he has to choose. Mills are annoying, petty, and weirdly jealous. You do not cut contact unless it is actually serious. I could sprout off 50 different things my Mill has bugged me about. You should have just kept the peace and ignored her or went non-contact by yourself. Y'all do not have to show up to every family event, and if you disliked her so much that you cannot handle the occasional annoying encounter, you should not have married him. I will never treat my dill that way, but I do know if my husband heard of our son mocking me or hating me, he would not want to be in contact either. A good husband will choose his wife in these kind of situations, which your husband and his father both seem to have done. Now it looks like your man has lost his whole family as a result. You should be more empathetic since he did it for you and consider being the bigger person. Apologize and no more mocking, so at least Phil will be willing to talk to his son. It is not about respecting boundaries in this situation, it is gonna be about whether or not you care more about your husband maintaining close familial bond he has with his father or you being annoyed by your Mill. It started with you and it is gotta end with you. This for the first few years of my relationship with my husband, his mother hated me, even went as far as saying if we ever got married she is never come to the wedding. Things did get better with time and she even helped him plan this proposal to me and we have a decent relationship now. Sometimes it just takes patience and time to let stuff work itself out. Something weird is afoot here. Nobody wants to hang out with you and you have not told us why that is. She sprayed me with a hose while she was watering her dog. TF does that mean? I vote not enough info. I would not say no one. There was always a divide with older Sil and my husband versus Mill and the younger Sil. Osa likes me and Phil was fine with me until this. She was spraying water for her dog to run through, not like watering it like a plant. According to Bill, I am a wimp and I should have just sprayed her with the hose instead of setting boundaries. ESH. Your husband nuked his relationship with his parents. I cannot tell how much of that was because you wanted him to. Your Phil should have stood by his wife from the beginning. Mill, though annoying and a little mean, does seem to be the most innocent person in the story. Auntie, I am sorry but this screams divorce to me. Your husband is emotionally dependent on his dad. His dad is dependent on his wife. The only way for them to reconcile is for your husband to reject you, and judging from he is now mad at me for not having empathy and said that was a robotic response and he can lose his dad. You are on your way to divorce. On the other hand, it will be so much easier for you to drop this baggage of your husband and finally live free without a fear of his family exploding and your husband going bananas. If you're allowed to go and see with her, then he can go and see with you. That's his right. Leave them alone. So your Mill is a bit of an owl and she does not like you. Mill are often like that. Nothing you listed is that serious. Her humor sucks. Honestly, it does not sound like you're very fun at parties either. Your poor husband. You already cut off his mother and one sister and now you have isolated him from his whole family. And then you basically say, oh well, get over it. You're an orphan now, but hey, you still have me, yikes. To me, op sounds pretty immature. To be fair, the Mill does not sound like any prize, but I think it goes both directions. I would bet hearing the other side of the argument would be like two sides of the same coin. Husband married a younger version of his mom. Of course this is way too little data to make this determination, but it just reads that way. Nah, you aren't wrong, but he's going through a lot. He's got a lot to work through. You have a tiger by the tail here. You two should get into some form of counseling because with this resentment your marriage might be doomed. Nah. Edit. So Phil was invited to your wedding, not Mill. But hubby has to understand that his Phil loves the Mill and your hubby being an adult and his family does not want to have contact with him, maybe being notified of a death. He has to move on with life and not look back. Mill sound like a piece of work. Does she act the same with her two other daughters and their husbands? What Phil thinks of his wife antics. The youngest daughter is her favorite. She has an interesting on-again off-again relationship with her oldest daughter. She pretty much acts this way with everyone, but a lot of people find it funny or playful. Celeste's husband actually really likes her. Phil thinks it is adorable. Auntie, but regardless, your husband has lost both his mother and father. He should seek out counseling to deal with this. I have to say, unless this is just the same person writing behind all these accounts. I had no idea there were so many immature babies masquerading as Mills till I have been following this sub. This is between him and his family. Stop giving him advice on how to handle things, because if he loses them he is going to resent you for it. Nah, but this a sensitive time for him. Do not feel guilt, just sympathize with him. Mill and Phil seem toxic somewhat, definitely the Mill. By your own admission you went 10C with his mom over little. This has festered and now blown up because everyone involved has behaved like a child, possible exception for Phil. I was waiting for you to elaborate on what horrible things your mother-in-law did, exactly, to make you take the extreme step of cutting her off and going NC with her, but the reasons you gave just do not seem to justify such a drastic reaction. She was rude and made little jokes. That is it, for sure. She sounds fairly annoying. But did you or your husband ever try to actually sit down with her and have a serious conversation about how her attitude affected you and upset you before you decided to just erase her from your lives entirely? Did your husband even have much of a say in this? Because it sounds like you just made this decision for him. And, even after you Mill was in a freak accident, suffered through a coma, and nearly died, you still refuse to budge on this and just make amends, because you think she was rude to you. Wow, that is very harsh. I mean, this has broken up a family and is clearly causing your husband an awful lot of pain, and you're basically telling him to get over it. And all because of some little jokes your Mill made in the past. It is the unpopular answer here. But we did talk to her and her attitude was pretty much well laughing. I never liked either of you. And then her crazy daughter was jumping in and screaming about how we need to get out of the family. Do not get me wrong. I hoped that she recovered quickly and was okay, and I was relieved when they cleared that there was no brain damage, but it did not make me want to hang out with her. Every single comment I have read from you up has been the strangest thing I have ever read. You list horrible actions for a family to engage in, then excuse it away and say everyone is fine, no one is bothered by it. It is like she stuck a knife in her friend's gut. But it was a joke, everyone blew it off. Did not even need an apology. She ran over her neighbor's dog, we laughed it off. You all are covering and suppressing some huge stuff. You have to see that, right? This situation is just sad all around. Your husband just needs time and so does Phil. I think you wasn't wrong for what said, but when you said it, maybe getting a family counselor for everyone involved to slowly mend bridges. And your husband is not only tough for not respecting his parents' boundaries, he is a major off for wanting to stay in contact with them after they treated his partner like that. And his behavior is inappropriate. This is why people do not take cutting contact lightly. It leads to a lot of family friction and often ruins otherwise happy relationships, like the one between your husband and his father. And especially after reading through your edits and comments, Mill's behavior and Phil's previous passive acceptance of it is what caused a large portion of this mess. The thing is, when you go no contact with someone toxic, especially a family member, that can have a domino effect on the rest of those familial relationships. Maybe this wasn't something your husband realized until now, which is why he's having such a hard time with it. Mill is not sorry, doesn't want an apology, doesn't want a relationship. You guys probably feel similarly, and while it is less than ideal, you guys are all entitled to your feelings about it. Phil could have a relationship with you guys without Mill involved, but that could potentially endanger his marriage or relationship with Sil. Him trying to force an apology playing happy families does no one any favors. Phil is also to blame in this, in that he passively stood by for these jabs at his son and you, which leads me to one of two conclusions. He either fully agrees and encourages the behavior that started NC in the first place, or he turns a blind eye to it rather than defend his own son and deal. You aren't wrong for asking your husband to accept the boundaries he has been given by his family. Him continuing down this road is most likely going to end in more drama or possibly harassment charges eventually. You're not a robot. You're giving him solid advice. I strongly suggest you get into marital counseling, and while you're at it, look up the Rocking the Boat essay here on Reddit. Pretty sure it is on the Gmail sub. Good luck to you. Stay in your lane. This is his family. If he does not ask for your opinion, your role is to support him. Speaking from experience, I think you need to be less involved in what your husband does here. Tell him you are sorry for how you made him feel. Tell him you are sorry for what he is going through and that you are here for him and will listen, but do not try to tell him what to do, because that is just going to make him lash out. I would say that for this specific situation, you are NTA because you are trying to keep him from getting arrested for trespassing. In terms of the broader situation, I would not offer a judgment. Wait, I feel like I've read this AITA story before, especially the detail about sending a pic of a hotel room full of shopping bags with the spending your daughter's inheritance bit. Melissa total child, Phil is whipped, husband s angry, and you read the mature one out of all of them, huh? Nah, I say nah, but only because neither you nor your husband are the else. His parents absolutely and obviously are. Your husband supported your decision to go no contact with his mom, which is exactly what he needed to do, but he has a right to want his father in his life. You understand that he has lost the one parent he actually liked, right? You absolutely should show some empathy for him, just like he showed when he agreed to cut off his mom. Your husband is grieving. If you want to help him heal, you will support him instead of chastising him. NTA, but there is so much baggage here to unpack. You all need a form of therapy. None of this is okay. Nah, imagine not receiving love from one parent and the other leaves as well. Your husband is overall better off without his parents in this situation, but I feel so sorry for him. Your Mill sucks for being rude to you and bullying you. Your Phil sucks for being rude at your wedding. They suck for calling the cops on your husband, and you possibly suck for driving a wedge between them. Nah, advice: reconsider your marriage.